Welcome back, animal lovers, to Awakening with Your Animal Family. I'm Dr. Schoen, your host of the show. And today I'm really excited to bring you into a further exploration of how we can protect ourselves from electromagnetic fields. We've had one or two shows on that, and then I came across this force field technology through Awake TV. And thanks to Amanda and John, the co-founders of Awake TV, and found it interesting enough that I feel like it's important to introduce you to the science and the practical applications of this. So, excuse me. So to give you a little bit of a background before I introduce our guest speakers, since I've been doing veterinary acupuncture and teaching and practicing and doing research on it since the early 1980s, I've always been teaching it, as I mentioned to you, based on the scientific basis and the bioelectrical theory of acupuncture and how we are these bioelectrical energetic beings. And with that, it's important to keep our bioelectrical energy and balance and flowing throughout the body. And there are many things we've talked about: water, sound medicine, light medicine, all these things, the diet to keep it healthy. But these days we're getting bombarded with more and more exogenous outer electromagnetic fields that are showing a fair amount of evidence that they can be detrimental to our own balanced electromagnetic fields. So my whole career, I was interested in that. I based all my lectures on Dr. Robert Becker's really groundbreaking books in the 80s, The Body Electric and Cross Currents, on the bioelectrical basis of all life, and then how these external fields can be detrimental to them. Dr. Becker was interested because in his house in upstate New York, all of a sudden they put these massive electromagnetic high power tension wires nearby, and he was concerned about their impact. Nowadays, we have much more to be concerned about than high power tension wires. We have cell phones, we have Wi-Fi, and now we have this upcoming presentation throughout the world of 5G, which stands for fifth generation Wi-Fi. Okay, that's in contrast to where we'd all like to be in 5D, the fifth dimension, and more than just the rock group from the 70s of the fifth dimension. So anyway, with that, I've always been searching, and I've been quite open-minded, yet I have to admit, I've been disappointed and disillusioned at times. There were so many electromagnetic devices that were coming on saying they protect us from high power tension wires, they protect us from Wi-Fi, this and that, and they didn't fit all my 5 criteria that I look at for, is this something that I can stand behind and that I would use? Okay, and the 5 criteria, which I've discussed with you before in previous episodes for everything I research and apply to helping our animals, are number one, does it work? Number 2, is it reproducible? Number 3, is there a scientific basis? Number 4, that it causes no harm. And number 5, is it easily applicable to the animals? And over the years, like I said, there's some that fit one criteria, but not another. And I was kind of like disappointed in what was out there. Now with 5G coming on, I said, wow, I really need to reevaluate this and look at it and see if there are newer technologies out there that can help protect us and our animal families from the advent of 5G. So with that, the co-founders of Awake TV introduced me to the ForceField technology and forcefield.com, and they introduced me to the group that's behind it. There's a group of at least 5 behind it, and we can't practically have all 5 on the show or else it would go for hours. So today, I would like to introduce you to 2 of the founders of this. One is Kumara Llanera, if I'm pronouncing your last name right.
Yes.
Yeah, and so Kumara has a background, one of those very millennial, expansive backgrounds in many different fields, and along with a passion to keep us in harmony. He came to create the ForceField EMF from a background with unify.org, and he was interested in the wellness of all beings, like all of us. And with that, he jumped into, with his passion for quantum physics and harmony, bioharmony, he jumped into this, and he came across the ForceField technology, and he and Michael Kraus are the founders of the ForceField here in Canada, okay? And then our other guest is Thijs Hooten?
Conan.
Yes, Conan.
Yeah, who is the son of the inventor, there are two inventors, two scientists behind this, and he's the son, and they're from the Netherlands. And his father, like me, was a medical doctor. He's a human medical doctor, and also specialized in acupuncture and complementary medicine in the Netherlands for over 35 years. And with that, we had synchronistic journeys. He was also always searching for new approaches and new technologies. He studied sound medicine and developed all these different technologies to help create a healthier body and a healthier, happier lifestyle. And with him, the other co-inventor is, I have so many names here. Willie.
Yes.
And so they are scientists who brought up the technology, and Thijs was kind enough. Thijs has a background. He was raised by his parents with a medical physics background in quantum physics, and then studied biology and became a biologist, and then a teacher. And with the ForceField, he's combined his passions of biology and teaching and communication to be the speaker for for the English-speaking world. So thank you, and welcome to Awakening with Your Animal Family. Now, with all that background, okay, so we have all these people who are interested, who are involved in the ForceField technology, and now we understand your background, and I'm going to be coming here as a devil's advocate that really, really, really honestly wants to see this work. But with all of my background and the trepidations that I had of finding too many things that I couldn't stand behind, I was a little skeptical. And then Kumara sent me, and I have it in my pocket, and I can feel it. I actually feel it when I have it in my pocket, or in my pants pocket or anything, but this is the ForceField, okay, which Kumara and Thijs are going to be explaining to you. And I have to say, I've only had it for a few days now, less than a week. And this is anecdotal, quote unquote, but anecdotally, yes, despite my skepticism, the dance in between my left brain and my right brain, and being excited, but also being a scientist, I have to say I am feeling effects and benefits from it. I'm feeling my body seems to be not as sensitive to outer electromagnetic fields. And I tend to be, I'm not as bad as some, but I tend to be electrosensitive, where, boy, you pick up a cell phone, I can feel the buzz, I can feel the heat in my ear. I don't use that. And I very rarely use a cell phone. If I do, I have everything that I can be on me to protect myself from it. And I live on an island where there is decreased EMFs. And there are many people who have actually moved to the island because they're so electrosensitive. And it's one of the few places left that still has a decreased field, not a completely empty field, but a decreased field. And we're working on technology that one of the people on the island, God bless her, Una, is working with the whole Canadian government on creating quote unquote safe G. That was her term versus 5G. And I love that, okay, because we need terminology that is more positive than saying anti this and anti that. No, this, what we're looking for is safe G, a safe generation, how to protect. So with that, again, I'm always exploring what can we do to protect us and our animals, because our animals are like the canary in the coal mine. You know, I've seen it enough now that they get sick oftentimes before we do. And when I do my epidemiologic questionnaire, when patients come to me, part of my questionnaire is, do you live near any electromagnetic fields? And I've increased that questionnaire as smart meters have come up and things like that, and saying, are your animals beds, or do they lie near a smart meter in your house or your apartment? And it's an interesting anecdote, but anecdotes are the beginning of coming up and seeing patterns. And then patterns are the precedent for starting studies. Okay, so there are enough anecdotal evidence that I've seen of animals falling ill, sleeping behind a smart meter or something, you know, where it was right behind them. And so with all this continued and increased bombardment of our EMF fields, again, I'm always looking for things that can help and be of benefit. So with that, explaining my background, my skepticism and my open-mindedness, I'm introducing you to my audience, and I would love to hear from everyone. Tell me what you think about this, because I normally wait longer to bring something like this out to the public, to my viewers, but I think it has so much potential, and I'm so impressed with all of you behind it that I said, okay, let me bring it out now and let everyone else see what they think. Okay, so with that introduction, what I'd like to do is, Thais and Kumara, and we'll go back and forth and dance between all of us, if you can explain what your technology, what the ForceField is, and what the science behind it is, and how your father and Willie, how they came across this and developed it, and the science behind it. So take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for the introduction. Very profound. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, my dad has been working for almost 30 years right now for in all different fields like acupuncture and as you mentioned as well, sound. And one thing he actually found is that everything is made up out of vibration, so everything is frequency. It's already a long ancient knowledge, of course, so it's not very new, but he was always missing something in the sense of nobody's actually doing something with these frequencies. Everybody's just focusing on symptoms and not looking at what the quantum mechanics are that are involved in curing somebody, or at least making somebody healthy again, because that's actually what we're trying to do. We're not curing anything. We're not trying to get rid of something. We're just trying to reestablish a natural frequency of a body, actually. So that's what we're aiming for with the technology. And one thing that he found that is very profound is when he was working with a dowsing rod. I don't know if it's the correct word, but he uses a very specific and very accurate dowsing rod. It's called the Llanera antenna. And he uses this for almost 20 years right now. He's been working in making sure people's homes are not the ley lines in people's homes and water veins that are running underneath homes, that they don't really interfere with the natural energy that's flowing around. And people can really get influenced by these energy fields that are going straight through their houses. And if they're sleeping on one of these energy lines, they would feel very chaotic, and they would not get enough rest during the night, which is, of course, a very bad thing. And he started working with that. And in the last few years, they were trying to make a device that would actually make this this dowsing, this Lecher antenna, a lot more accurate. And in doing so, they actually found out that it was actually not that was a problem in making something like the antenna more accurate. They found that they needed something to block or at least change the energy fields that are being that are being present all around us right now, and especially the non-natural radiation types, so the non-ionizing and all the cell phone towers and all those kinds of equipment. And in doing so, they were looking at especially the work of Nikola Tesla as well, because he always said, if you want to look at the world in a new aspect, you have to look at everything as a frequency and vibration. So that was the essence of Nikola Tesla's work, and that's what they were starting to do right now. So they were investigating what kind of a field is being influenced by this whole energy field that is being generated through electricity, through cell phone towers. And they found that it was actually a very, well, some people call it almost pseudoscience, but it's actually more than that, because Tesla was already focusing a little bit on this, and it's called the scalar field. And that's one of the fields that is actually very hard to comprehend, because it's not really visible to us, and we don't even really know exactly what it could be, the scalar field. But it's a field that is under the influence of everything that is around us, and you might even think of it as being the field of consciousness, but it's still not really clear what it is exactly, but that's the field that we are working with in this technology. So it's a very new and groundbreaking field that we're trying to make steps in. But yeah, that's at least the background is a little bit in that way. So I hope.
Thank you, Thijs. So again, just coming as devil's advocate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's always those skeptics who will say, oh, it is pseudoscience, even though there's tremendous amount of research behind scalar energy, and energy medicine in general is, it's there. There's so much. I mean, energy medicine, doing MRIs is energy medicine. It's magnetic resonance. It's, all of these things are part of energy medicine. We're using energy medicine all the time. It's figuring out, but we're still, in medicine, we still go more by a biomechanical, biochemical basis. But with all the advent, again, of MRIs, ultrasound, all these things are vibrational medicine, energy medicine. And so what we're trying to do, and what you're trying to do, what your father and the other scientists have invented, is, if I'm understanding it correctly, this card, which makes it very practical, is based on scalar medicine, scalar energy and energy medicine, and it creates a more harmonious field around us, and blocking or restructuring, rebalancing the disharmonious energetic fields from electromagnetic energy we're being bombarded with. Is that?
Yeah, you're very accurate, exactly. But there's one thing that I always have to get straight from the instance. In our surroundings, there are actually two different kinds of frequencies that are present, and I'm specifically focusing on all the electromagnetic frequencies, so not all the other microwaves and all the other different types. But in the electromagnetic spectrum, there's lots of different types of frequencies. So there are the harmonic frequencies, which are actually helping us to get a very healthy structure in our bodies. And on the other half, there's the disharmonic frequencies. So the ones that are actually disrupting our natural order of our molecules and our cells. And our human bodies are made up out of 90% in volume of water. So water is actually the most prevalent and most important molecule that is in our bodies. And under the influence of disharmonic frequencies, these water molecules can get really chaotic. So the natural state of water is actually in a hexagonal, so it's like the honeycomb structure. That is the natural structure in which water will always try to reform itself. And if it's not able to do so, it will just go around and in a very chaotic and irregular manner. And that would, if that's happening in your cells under the influence of these disharmonic frequencies, your cells will start to function a lot less, and they will be. It could also cause cell death quickly, and it could also cause lots of other different aspects. So having a very structured type of water in your cells is very important for our health, and it increases your communication between the cells and in your whole body as well. So that's actually what we're focusing on. What we're doing is not blocking these disharmonic frequencies, but what we're doing is we're reinforcing. So the card is actually resonating, and it's reinforcing the harmonic frequencies of the environment. So everything that we're doing is not blocking anything bad, it's just reinforcing the good. That's what we're focusing on.
Oh, thank you
Right.
for explaining that. Yeah, we had Dr. Gerald Pollack on a previous episode of my show, who is the scientist at the University of Washington who discovered and published for decades on structured water.
Yeah,
And what he calls the fourth phase of water, structured water. So this gives me a greater appreciation. So what this ForceField card is doing, what you're saying is it helps restructure the water in our bodies to be more harmonious the way it should be if we weren't being bombarded.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And in a way, I guess it would be a simpler term for more people.
Yeah.
Is it acts like a tuning fork. So when it gets hit by whatever energy, whether it's harmonic or disharmonic, it will only resonate in the field of harmonics, which actually helps restructure the molecules in the water structure of our body, which is hexagonal, which I believe is not, correct me if I'm wrong, Thijs, it is on the 3-axis plane rather than just a 2-axis plane, correct?
Yeah. Well, it's layers on top of each other, so it's in that sense it's
and sides.
well, usually water will always form like a twisting.
Like a DNA.
Yeah, like a string almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Yeah. But you're correct.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Kumara, for explaining that. So, Thijs, how did the two scientists, Willie and your dad, Joost, come up with the whole concept of the force field?
That's a very good question. Well, they were experimenting a lot with different materials that would be giving off a good vibration, so a very good frequency. And they were testing a lot of different modes of how to properly arrange these structures. And actually, by chance, they found this very strong and very powerful frequency in this structure as we have it right now. And they also put in maybe you've seen it, the few different patterns that are on the card as well. So they were experimenting with the geobiological aspects as well. and they found that it also has a side effect, which is actually being on the one side, so the side with the arrows. I don't know if you can see it a little bit, but the side with the arrows, and that would be the side which is very stimulating, so very energy giving, and you could almost say the yang side. And on the other side, which has the floral pattern on it, and that is a little bit more the calming side, so the more yin side of the card. So that's also another side effect that they found. If you would point it towards your body in one of the two sides, then it would have an added effect as well. So that's very interesting find that they stumbled upon. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is actually, if you can describe it, what's the card made of?
Well, it's made purely out of natural plastic. So it's corn-based bioplastic.
Non-GMO.
Non-GMO,
Yeah.
very, very important as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, the inside of the card, which is actually, we call it the resonator. So that's the actual working part. It's made out of bismuth. And bismuth is a metal that has a very special property as well. It's a very how do you say it? It's conductive, but it has a special word. I don't remember the English word for it, but it's a very special. It has a very special spiritual aspect as well. So it's conductive and it's resonating with harmonic frequencies as well on its own already. So it's that.
Okay, so there's a particular metal, bismuth, or mineral, or what is bismuth?
Bismuth is a metal, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't mean to be so naive. It just
No, it's a metal. It's a metal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then there's different images, imprints on it that reflect different energies.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the covering of it, which is non-GMO corn based. So it's all natural. It's metals. It's everything is natural. There's nothing, and all of that together creates a more harmonic field that helps restructure, bring our structured water that's attached, as I've talked about in other shows, our connective tissue is fascia and water, and we are 90% water. And when we're bombarded with all these extraneous, less healthy fields, it destructures our water and creates disease in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've created, your father and the other scientists really have created this, that you have found restructures the water to make us more healthier and harmonious. So what studies have you done to document that? Have you done studies to show before and after on this with the card, without the card, without the force field, on health of plants or animals, or where are you with this, with the science?
Well, we've definitely had some experiments already. We're still conducting a lot of them. At the moment, we're doing an experiment with one of the universities here in the Netherlands, and that's one of the experiments we're doing with animals. So what we're doing is we're placing at this university. They have a few very advanced stables where cows can be monitored 24/7. So they have one area in the stables that is just normal situation for the cows, and in the other they have cows who are wearing the cards, or at least are near the cards, so that they have influence of this card. And what they're trying to see is if the the quality of the milk that the cows are producing is improving with the card, or maybe not. Well, we especially hope that the card is influencing the quality, so it's getting better. But we're still waiting for the results of this experiment. And yeah, due to the whole Corona issue, it's going to take a little bit longer than we expected. But that's one of the experiments. We also did another experiment with plants. In the plants are very sensitive to this electromagnetic frequency as well. And what we placed, we placed a telephone, a DECT telephone. It's a very strong emitting telephone, and we place it near crest seeds in a cup. I don't know if you
Watercress.
watercress.
seeds.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, the watercress seeds, and we just wanted to see if this would influence the germinating of these seeds. And what we found is that we almost had like a very, very different effects from with the card and without the card already after 3 days. But after 6 days, we already saw that the cards had a very big influence, because the crest seeds without the card were only having 2 germinating seeds.
Did you want to see that slide? I can share it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Kumara, that would be
that's
great. I
perfect.
was hoping, yeah.
Yeah, that's even
A
easier.
picture's
and then,
worth 1,000 words.
Exactly. So here it is. So I don't know how the screen is
Yeah.
going to switch when Thijs starts to talk, but go ahead, Thijs.
Yeah, this is perfect like this. So you can see here, we placed the card with 2 cups, and we had the other one without the cards. And as you can see, I don't know if you can zoom a little bit. Yeah. After day 4 already, we had 2 germinating seeds only with the cups without the card, and already 6 with the card. And on the last day, day 6, there were 9 with the card and 2 without the card. So this was a very promising experiment as well. And yeah, it just shows that there's a very profound influence that the card has on the electromagnetic fields. Because one thing I just recently found out actually is that our natural cells, so our membrane of our cells, is already influenced by electromagnetic radiation when it's about 100 to 120 microvolts per meter. So that's very, very, very little bit. Because in our natural environment right now, if we're just sitting here in the room, we already have about 6,000 microvolts per meter. So
And that's in Europe, yes?
And that's in Europe, yeah, of course.
In North
So
America, it's even more. I think it's 10 times is what you have.
Yeah, so that's a very, if you think about that, it's really, actually, it's crazy that we're still doing this, and we're not trying to fix that in any certain way. And in introducing this card, for instance, in these experiments, then you can already see that the natural resistance of the plants, but also yeah, just our natural feeling is a lot more strong than before, and that we're actually capable of protecting ourselves against this radiation, and that's very important.
Yes, and it's really interesting too how animals respond to these things. You know, I met a friend over the car ferry that I traveled with just the other last week. Ran into me, asked me what was going on. I gave him an update, and he wanted some cards, but I said, hey, we got to go. So when I went back to the coast, I went yesterday back to the coast over the car ferry, and they really wanted me to go to their place. And you should have seen their bull mastiff dog, this big, huge dog who usually responds really well to me. This time around, he was all over me. His head was in my lap, and he was the little pelican case, waterproof case that I have with a bunch of cards in it. He kept nudging it with his snout, with his nose, wondering, and he kept cuddling me, and then his owner's like, "Well, I've never seen this before." I said, "I haven't either." So it's really interesting.
Yeah, do you have other, I mean, all of these are beginning, I mean, we're starting, it's early, but anecdotal stories. There, Tice, I'm curious, what have you seen, because you've been developing it and then just recently connected with Kumara to bring it to North America.
Mhm.
So what other experiences have you seen, at least anecdotally? We want to see those studies, you know, on the cows and the
Mhm.
seeds and everything, but what made you see in both humans and animals
Mhm.
from your father saying, hey, this really does work? What
Yeah.
were, yeah, some of the things that you were seeing that you said, oh, we're really onto something here?
Yeah. Well, one thing that it was one of our first experiments. Actually, it's not really necessarily scientific in that sense, but what we were trying is to see if our natural squeezing power is improved. So we have this dynamometer, and it can measure your squeezing power very accurately. And we were just asking people like, all right, try and squeeze as hard as you can, and then they did it 3 times, and then they would almost squeeze the exact same amount. And then we would say, all right, now wear this card for a few minutes and then squeeze again. And after they were wearing the card for about 5 minutes, they would almost every single person would almost squeeze about 3 to 4 kilograms more than they did before. So that was one of our first, like, whoa, okay, so it does work, and it could actually be something that athletes could use maybe if they if they just have this 2 or 3% more output, then that would be like amazing already. But yeah, that was one of our first tests as well. And one of the things I actually notice is I always keep it by my side during the night as well. And one of the first things I noticed is being able to sleep way better than before. So during the night, there's always the influences from the outside, and um, one thing I was studying as well is that our natural melatonin level is very much influenced by light, of course. So our pineal gland is very sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies, and it doesn't really,
Ultraviolet during the day, yeah.
yeah, it doesn't really make a difference between electromagnetic frequencies. So just something like a Wi-Fi could be picked up just as well as light. So it doesn't really matter that much. And I was already turning off all my Wi-Fi, turning my phone out, and putting it in the living room. But I sometimes could not really sleep as solid as I would like. And when I started placing the card next to me on the nightstand, I started noticing that I was remembering my dreams a lot more, and actually just sleeping much better, and feeling more rested in the morning. So yeah, that's one of the effects as well, that your pineal gland is able to actually give off the melatonin much better, which is all in itself is a very good thing, because your body needs melatonin to repair itself. And if it's not able to do that, your whole body is going to have inflammation, and yeah, it's going to cause a lot of trouble in itself. So yeah, being able to sleep much better during the night is one of the biggest benefits I noticed from the card.
And when you say you have the card by your side at night, which side do you use?
Mhm.
The calming or the energizing, up or down or sideways or?
Yeah, I've been experimenting with that as well, but during the night it's never good to have a lot of energy. So
Right.
I always keep the floral side, so the yin side, towards me. And I've been experimenting right now with placing it under my pillow or placing it on my nightstand. And to me, placing it under my pillow is working a lot more intensely than putting it on the nightstand. But it
Yes.
just differs per person, I think. So.
Yeah, I've experimented too. The arrow side, which is the young side, up under my pillow, I don't sleep. I turn it over with the flower side. I think I'm sleeping, but I'm experiencing other things like intense lucid dreaming, which I used to be afraid of, but now there's nothing to be afraid of with lucid dreaming.
And that's with the activated side.
No, that's the calming
That's
side.
the calming side. Interesting.
Yeah, the yin
so,
side.
as a scientist, I would love to see studies where you had the card and then you made some placebo cards. Maybe just the blue or the white, whatever the card, just the corn covering, and not the other one, but make it look exactly like it.
Yeah.
And have, say, that strength meter, all these different things done.
Or the seeds.
With, or the seeds. And say, okay, let's see what, with people not knowing whether, because skeptics would say, oh, they wanted to be stronger when they had the card. They wanted to prove it to you. Or a skeptic might, another one would say, I want to prove it wrong. But if that's where the double blind comes in, like, I don't know which one I'm using. And, oh, okay, when I used, and so only the scientists would know that I'm using one or the other.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Right now we're doing some more studying with, but that's more like a physics sort of direction that we're trying.
Yeah, the biophysics.
Well,
or
no,
more
what
the
we're
quantum.
trying right now is we're trying to see if the boiling point of water is actually influenced by the card as well.
Oh, okay.
So when you structure water, the bonds that all the molecules make would be stronger than if they would be chaotic. So then the water is, in our theory, the water would boil faster if it's more chaotic than if it's very structured. And we've done a few tests right now, and we already had some very promising results. So the boiling temperature of the water actually changed in using the cards. And we also tried to see if water that has been structured with either the female side or the male side is also different from each other. So if the structuring is in any way a little bit different. And we actually did a little bit of a tasting test as well to see if the female water would be more appeasing to the females, and the male water would be more appeasing to the males. And that actually, for now, we found that was actually true as well. So the male influence side was more pleasant for the men as well. So it's a very interesting,
Wow,
promising.
that's really interesting. Thijs, have you done any experimentation with water itself and exclusion zones, both with and without the card?
Well, we're trying to think of a good experiment to do that with, but we're getting there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So
And how, like, for, let's say, my animal loving, educated, wonderful audience says, wow, okay, this is brand new. It's cutting edge. It sounds exciting. It sounds hopeful. How do I use it on my dog or my cat or my bird or my horse or whatever?
Yeah.
What's the practical? How would you guide them to use it?
Yeah. Well, one thing I could at least put out there is if you have it in the area where the dog or any animal sleeps for the most time during the night, that would be the perfect place to actually place the card, I think. And that's because during the night you always need a lot more protection than during the day, because then your body needs to repair itself. But well, one thing that we found is that cats will always try to put themselves on a high energy spot, because cats have a very peculiar thing as well, that their fur is actually shifting all the energy into a different polarity. So that's one thing, that cats have a very special way of being. And even the Egyptians already mentioned that the cats are actually the protectors of the spiritual world, and dogs are the protectors of the physical world. And dogs are always trying to avoid all the energy spaces, so the high energy focused spaces, and cats are always trying to get on these energy spaces.
Huh, I've
And
never heard that
You
before.
know what?
Fascinating.
Yesterday, when I delivered the 2 cards and that bull mastiff was around, I was
Yeah.
just talking and I showed the arrow side. You can't really see because of the white one there.
yeah,
I pointed
Yeah.
it towards her back, and she jolted, and I'm like, "Oh, sorry." And then I turned it around, and then this side,
yeah.
and then she started wagging her tail again, and then wanted to like maul me. So that was something I didn't really expect that to happen, but that was remarkable, and it seems to corroborate with what you just said, Tice.
Yeah. So Tice, what you're saying is, if my audience, someone says, okay, I want to try this,
Mhm.
the first step would be to, if you have a dog bed, to
Mhm.
put it on the dog bed with the floral side up for calming. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, probably. Yeah,
And if you have a cat, and if the cat has a favorite place to sleep, put it there, but with the arrow side, the more male, the young
Yeah.
side
could be.
facing
Yeah,
up.
it's just a matter of experimenting. Yeah, yeah,
See, experimenting on that. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And it's always a matter of looking what your animal. Every single animal is different. Every human is different. So everybody needs a specific type of boosting of one of the two energies. But the main focus is, of course, the resonating effect that the card has. So that's always the same. It doesn't really it's not influenced by which side you put on or up or so the resonating effect is actually what makes the card useful, and the added effect is actually what you could experiment with. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
So it brings our structured water into resonance.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
If you had to, as we're starting to get close to the end,
Mhm.
if someone said, okay, Kumara, Tice, give me in a nutshell the mechanism of action, how it works, that's how you would say.
I think Kumara can really explain that very
Okay, Kumara.
In terms of the scientific part first,
Yes.
okay, so there's a clockwise rotation on the young side. It's going to be different on our screens. And then underneath, or not underneath, but on the yin side, there's a counterclockwise rotation. There's actually an implosion point inside the card. It's kind of like the heartbeat. What makes the heart beat? There's that implosion point between the electro and the magnetic. There's an electromagnetic frequency that this actually emits, and it's biological. So it's life supporting. And not only that, it brings back the structure of the water inside our bodies. And as a lot of people already are aware, that we're mostly made of water. There's water everywhere, whether you see it as a solid or a gas, or a different kind of a solid, whether like an ice or a liquid. So that's the really fascinating thing about water. And this actually structures the water, and it will actually also, I would say, lessen the effect of voltage gated calcium channels with the presence of disharmonic fields, such as that of 5G technology, which is 5G equals 20 to 100 times more, I would say, in millimeter wave form, more intense than the 4th generation. It was already a concern when it was back in 3G, right? So I hope I explained that
Well,
properly.
Kumara, I would love, yes, what I'd love to hear is a little bit more. We're getting close to time. and they can go to your website, forcefieldemf.com, to see the card more and to read more
Yes,
about it. But yeah, if you
exactly.
could
And then
explain
any
in a nutshell, a few nutshells here, the challenges that we're beginning to face with the advent of 5G everywhere, whether it's coming from small cell towers or satellites, or we're going to be bathed in this 5G.
Yeah, well, when it comes to solutions, not one solution is going to be a blanket solution. It's going to be a combination. There's harmonization, there's mitigation, there's management, there's actions such as what Tice had explained earlier, as exactly what I do every night is turn everything off in my room and avoid if you can actually avoid high frequency areas such as cities, even airplanes. There's so much EMFs in there. Now they have Wi-Fi available in the airplanes, which is quite a concern. There are ways, there are solutions where I'm corded in, my computer's corded in. Anything that there are any Bluetooth devices, I do have a Bluetooth device that's a Bose speaker. I fool it. It goes into auxiliary mode, and then I check it with my tri-field meter. No more Bluetooth when there's an auxiliary cable that gets plugged into it. I plug my phone. This is off right now, but I plug my phone when I want internet. I put it on airplane mode. I plug it in. There are settings that depends on the phone. There are also different ways to, if your Ethernet cable is not long enough to your hub, you can actually use different boxes like it's like a D-Link box. It's a certain brand that puts the signal inside through your electrical copper wiring. Another concern is actually smart meters, because they have dirty electricity. It's also known as transients. And when that's flying through the air, when they do fully turn that on, it's quite concerning, because now they're introducing new Wi-Fi boxes, those routers. There's an open network that they're starting to introduce here in Canada. I'm not too sure in the United States. And I know in Europe they're a lot more conscious, and they have safer technologies there. From Europe, there is a what do you call it? It's called an eco router, where it only turns on when your phone tries to, or whatever device tries to communicate, upload, download. Once it's done its thing and it's loaded onto your screen, it shuts down. So I know all of our routers here in Canada, it's always on. So the only time that you can turn it off is you unplug it. I turn my settings off, and then I plug in, and I check it with a tri-field meter. Eventually we'll have a tri-field meter that we're in the process of onboarding onto our website, so that people can actually read what's going on, both on the electrical, which I believe is on one axis, and then there is the magnetic, which is 2 axis, and then you have the RF, which is radio frequency. It works on 3 axes. And when this is actually bombarding our cells, and this is the big concern, and you get the VGCCs and the peroxynitrite pathway action going on from, Martin Powell's research. I don't know, you had that book one time you showed me from Martin.
Oh, no, that's from Gerald Pollack.
Oh,
Yeah.
Pollack. Okay.
Yeah, but Martin Paul came to Salt Spring to give his talks about his concerns with EMF, because we have there's a wonderful awake being on the island, Una, who's pioneering, creating what we are calling safe G here on the island, where, like you, I have all my computers are plug in through Ethernet. I don't have Wi-Fi. We only turn the Wi-Fi on if someone's come to visit us and needs it. But basically, we have everything's on Ethernet. This little meditation cave that I created, we actually have BIX wiring, the super insulated wiring. And it's amazing. Everyone who comes in there goes, oh my God, it's so quiet. We don't realize that all this EMF that our nervous system, they're showing our nervous system subconsciously is in defense against all this EMF constantly. So that it puts us in a stress mode, you know, and that's what I'm always looking for, is what else can we do to help protect ourselves from being bombarded with this and keep our water structured and keep us healthy. And I appreciate, Tice, the way you're explaining it to everyone, that, oh, what this actually does is help structure the water, keeps us in resonance rather than being anti. It's keeping us in resonance. And as you were saying, Kumara, we need to do everything we can to try to create more harmonious fields in our homes and when we travel. Because I was noticing, as Wi-Fi was getting to planes and I was still teaching all over the world on planes, I could feel it. And I was trying all these different things that said, oh, protect you from EMF. Some of them, I didn't feel anything. Some of them, I felt something. But I still, when you're being in an airplane with the Wi-Fi going constantly now, you're like in a Faraday cage where it's bouncing through you
inside
all the time. And I'm actually grateful that I'm not flying as much anymore and that I can teach and share through Zoom and other approaches, because we really need to bring this to an awareness. Some people say, oh, there's only a small percentage of people that are electrosensitive, but actually it's a small percentage that's increasing, and they're only the ones that are aware of it, because all these signs and being in cities of people being more agitated, this and that, these are all signs. And unfortunately, we're running out of time. I just want to ask you, Kumara, okay, you were saying that if anyone who's viewing this is interested, that if they call you and say, oh, I saw you on Dr. Schoen's Awakening with Your Animal Family, you'll give them some special discount or gift or something.
I will engage with them. I will help them in terms of, they tell me what they can engage with me. I can tell them, or I can ask them how their home is. I can help
you can help them.
Exactly.
Help protect their whole field, their home, much more than we have all the time for. So I would invite everyone to contact Kumara at forcefieldemf.com and talk, share your story about what your environment is like and how you can create a more harmonious environment with structured water with this force field, which, again, what I'm impressed is it's easy to use. It's affordable. Okay. So these are things that are criteria for, like my criteria is to make it worthwhile. And then it seems to be working. I want to see more research. I'm grateful that you're doing the research. It's because your father and your scientists who've created something that I was impressed enough to bring you on. So thank you both for being on the show, and thank your father and the other scientists who've created it, and thank Michael, who's working with you, Michael Krause, to get this out to the world. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to having you on again when you have more of the studies behind.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is
really
groundbreaking, and I hope that the studies and double-blind studies and things will continue to document the efficacy. But the bottom line is, when you try it. And I have to say, in just the week that I've had it, I dance back and forth between the scientist skeptic and the open-minded explorer, and I have to say, I'm actually feeling a difference with it, and I wouldn't say that if I wasn't. Okay. Like a few days ago, I was saying, what am I doing having you guys on the show so early? I'm not even sure if I'm feeling anything, and everyone appreciates me for my integrity on this. But now I said, oh, okay, actually over this weekend, I can really say I'm feeling something different. So if anyone in the audience wants to, contact Kumara at ForceField EMF. He can explain more to you. Thijs, I thank you so much for waking up in the middle of the night in Netherlands to be here with us live to explain it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank your father and Willie for creating this. And I wish you all well, and I really look forward to hearing more and experiencing more. And thank you all, my wonderful audience, for being open-minded and exploring this, as we need to create more healthier fields around us. So thank you. May the force be with you.
May the 4th be with you.
Yes.
Well, it's
Hey.
May the 5th for Tice right
Yes.
now. Staying up nice in the morning there.
Thank you. Bye for now until next week. And thank Awake TV again for hosting this and for bringing all of us together and to raising the vibration of humanity and the entire world, and raising the vibration of our animal family. Thank you all. And bye for now.